She was South Korea's golden girl, powerful, beautiful, beloved. But one scandal, one betrayal, and it all collapsed. This is Goo Hara's agonizing fall, and how her death forced a revolution in Korean law. This one shook an entire country. There's betrayal, blackmail, secret tapes, courtroom drama, and a law that got changed because of one woman's fight even after she was gone. You think you know what happened? You don't, not like this. This is the side of her story they didn't show you, raw, painful, and powerful as hell. And by the time it's done, you won't just feel for her, you'll be angry with her. Trust me, watch this all the way through. You'll see why this wasn't just a fall. It was a revolution. Goo Hara was born in 1991 in South Korea, and for the first few years of her life, things were pretty normal. She lived with her parents and older brother in a small town, and like a lot of little kids, she loved singing along to songs on TV and dancing in front of the mirror. But behind the scenes, her family was falling apart. Her parents were fighting constantly. It got to a point where the tension in the house was so thick, even little Hara could feel it. She didn't understand all of it, she was only 8, but she knew something was wrong. The love in her home was slowly being replaced with silence and stress. And then, one day in 1999, her mom just left. No warning, no note, no explanation. She was just gone. One day she was there, and the next day, she wasn't. At first, Hara didn't fully grasp what had happened. She waited, hoping maybe her mom had gone on a trip or needed a break and would be back soon. But the days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Her mother never came back. Even though she lived only a few miles away. She never called, never visited, never even asked how Hara and her brother were doing. And eventually, she signed away her parental rights altogether. Legally, she was no longer their mom. That kind of abandonment, it leaves a mark. For a young girl like Hara, it was confusing, heartbreaking, and incredibly lonely. Her dad, doing his best, had to work long hours and travel around the country just to keep the family afloat. He couldn't be there all the time, so he left Hara and her brother in the care of their grandmother. Now, to be fair, their grandma loved them deeply and raised them with everything she had. But Hara still carried that feeling, that something inside her had been broken early on, that she wasn't enough for her own mother to stay. And no matter how far she'd go in life, or how famous she'd become, that wound would always be there, quietly shaping how she saw herself and the world around her. Even after everything she went through as a kid, Goo Hara never stopped chasing her dream. From a young age, she loved performing. She was always dancing, always singing, it just made her happy. And even though her life at home was tough, she used music as her escape. As she got older, she took it more seriously. She started going to auditions, practicing every day, and doing whatever she could to get better. She didn't come from a rich family, and she didn't have connections, just pure talent and a lot of hard work. Then in 2008, when she was just 17, her big break finally came. She got picked to join a K-pop girl group called Kara. At the time, they were still trying to find their style and place in the industry, but the moment Hara joined, something changed. It didn't happen overnight, but it didn't take long either. Kara blew up, not just in Korea, but all across Asia. Their songs were catchy, their dances were sharp, and people couldn't get enough of them. They started winning awards, topping music charts, and performing in front of huge crowds. Hara became one of the most popular members. Fans loved her smile, her style, and the way she lit up every stage. She wasn't just a background dancer, she stood out. She was on TV shows, in magazines, and soon became a full-on celebrity. From a little girl abandoned by her mom, to one of the biggest stars in the K-pop world, it was like a movie. She had money, fame, and millions of fans. It looked like her life had completely turned around. And for a while, it really. Even though Goo Hara was famous and living the kind of life most people only dream about, things behind the scenes weren't as perfect as they seemed. After Kara disbanded, Hara kept going solo. She put out her own music, acted in dramas, and stayed in the spotlight. From the outside, it looked like she was doing great, smiling at events, doing interviews, posting on social media. But being a K-pop star in South Korea isn't just about talent. It comes with a lot of pressure, and honestly, it can be really toxic. Every move she made was watched. Everything she wore, everything she said, even how she looked, people online were always judging her. And not in a small way. If she looked tired, people would say she was lazy. If she wore something different, People would say she was doing it for attention. She couldn't win. The internet in South Korea can be especially harsh when it comes to celebrities. There are online forums where people just tear idols apart, and they don't hold back. They say mean things, spread rumors, and make fun of everything. And for someone like Hara, who was already dealing with a lot on the inside, that kind of non-stop hate was crushing. Sometimes, she would clap back at the haters. Other times, she would go quiet and not post anything at all. But no matter what she did, the bullying didn't stop. And it wasn't just about her career. People would attack her looks, her personality, even her past. She was expected to be perfect 24/7. But no one is perfect. Not even idols. And the worst part, even when she opened up about her mental health and how the hate was hurting her, people still didn't stop. It was like they didn't care. Like they forgot she was a real person with real feelings. Behind the camera, behind the lights, Goo Hara was hurting. And the internet just kept making it worse. In 2018, Goo Hara's life took a really dark turn. It all started with her ex-boyfriend. At first, it seemed like a normal breakup, but then things got scary, really scary. Out of nowhere, this guy starts threatening her. He says he has a private video of them, something very personal, and he tells her he's going to release it online if she doesn't do what he wants. He was basically blackmailing her. That video, if it got out, could have destroyed her whole career. In the K-pop world, even the idea of something like that can be enough to ruin someone's image, especially for a female idol. But it didn't stop there. One night, he actually breaks into her apartment while she's sleeping. Imagine how terrifying that is, to wake up and find your ex in your house, threatening you. It quickly turns into a fight. A real, physical fight. And both of them end up going to the police, pointing fingers at each other. He says she hit him. She says he assaulted her and tried to blackmail her with the video. And this wasn't just something that stayed private. It turned into a huge news story. Everyone in the country heard about it. Hara's name was all over the headlines. Even though the video never got out, the damage was already done. People found out it existed, and that was enough for the judgment to start. She took him to court, told the truth, and in the end, the judge agreed with her. The ex-boyfriend was found guilty and sentenced to prison. But even though she won the case, the internet didn't let it go. People kept talking about it, spreading rumors, blaming her, like she had done something wrong, just for being in a relationship. It was supposed to be justice, but for Goo Hara, it felt like another wave of pain. Her name was no longer just about her music or her talent. Now it was tied to a scandal she never asked for. After the court case and all the online hate, Goo Hara was trying so hard to stay strong. But the truth is, she was hurting. Like, really hurting. On the outside, she was still showing up for work, still smiling in front of cameras. But on the inside, she was breaking down. She had already gone through so much, being abandoned by her mom, growing up without her parents, dealing with all the pressure of being famous, then getting blackmailed and dragged through the media. It was just too much. And to make it even worse, people online were still picking her apart, like she wasn't even a real person with feelings. It felt like no matter what she did, someone always had something mean to say. Then something happened that completely shattered her. Her best friend, Sulli, who was also a K-pop star, passed away. She took her own life. And Goo Hara and Sulli weren't just co-workers, they were super close. Like sisters, they always had each other's backs, especially when the world felt too loud. When Sulli died, Hara posted a video crying and saying goodbye. You could see how broken she was. Losing Sulli was like losing one of the only people who truly understood her. And after that, everything just felt heavier. The sadness, the pressure, the loneliness, it all got worse. It was like her heart couldn't take it anymore. Not long after Sulli passed, Goo Hara started acting quieter online. She wasn't posting as much, and when she did, it felt kind of sad. People were worried about her, but no one really knew just how bad things had gotten. Then one day, she posted a picture of herself lying in bed. The caption just said, "Good night." It seemed simple, but a lot of people felt something wasn't right. The next day, the news came out, Goo Hara had died. She had taken her own life. It was shocking. Like, how could someone so talented, so beautiful, and so loved be gone just like that? But that's the thing, fame doesn't protect you from pain. She had been carrying so much sadness for so long, and even though she smiled for the cameras, she was hurting deeply inside. Her death shook everyone, her fans, other celebrities, and the entire K-pop world. People were heartbroken. It made a lot of folks realize how serious mental health is, especially for people who are always in the spotlight. And just like that, Goo Hara was gone. Only 28 years old. But her story wasn't over just yet. After Goo Hara passed, her funeral was kept private, just close family and friends. Fans weren't allowed in, and people respected that. But even though it was supposed to be a quiet, respectful goodbye, things got messy fast. Out of nowhere, Hara's mom showed up. Yep, the same mom who left her and her brother when they were just little kids and never looked back. She didn't raise them, didn't visit, didn't even call. But now she was at the funeral acting like she was in charge, telling people what to do. Trying to control everything. People thought it was weird. Like, how are you gonna disappear for 20 years, and now you're here asking for selfies with celebrities at your daughter's funeral? Yeah, she was actually doing that. Asking famous people at the funeral for pictures. It didn't feel real, but here's where it gets worse. Goo Hara had no kids, no husband. So by law, her money, millions from her long career, was supposed to go to her parents. Even her mom, even though she was basically a stranger. Hara's dad, who wasn't around much either because he was always working, did the right thing. He gave up his share and passed it to Hara's brother, Hoin. But their mom, she wasn't letting go of her part. She wanted that money, and it wasn't just a little bit. We're talking 40% of Goo Hara's entire estate. So Hoin, heartbroken and angry, took their mom to court. He was like, how can someone who abandoned us come back and take my sister's money? He fought for what was right, not just for Hara but for other kids who go through the same thing. And that fight, it didn't just stop there, it actually changed South Korean law. But we'll get to that. So after all the drama at the funeral and the court battle over Goo Hara's money, her brother Hoin didn't stop there. He could have just moved on, but instead, he decided to fight for something bigger, something that would help other families like his. He spoke out about how unfair it was that a parent who totally abandoned their kids could suddenly show up after their death and take their money. He talked to the media, met with lawmakers, and pushed hard to change the law. He basically said, this can't happen to anyone else. And people listened. The public was behind him. So was the government. They started working on a new law that would stop this from happening again. And in 2024, they finally made it official. South Korea passed a new law called the Goo Hara Act. The law says if a parent neglects or abandons their child, they lose the right to inherit anything from them. It sounds like common sense, but before this, there wasn't anything like it in place. Now, because of Goo Hara, and because her brother fought so hard, kids who've been hurt or left behind by their parents are better protected. Goo Hara didn't just leave behind music or fame. She left behind real change. And honestly, that's a legacy even bigger than her career. Even after Goo Hara's story ended, the impact didn't just go away. Her death wasn't just personal, it forced a lot of people to look at the bigger problems in the K-pop world and in Korean society. People started asking real questions. Why are idols treated like they're not human? Why is mental health still such a taboo? Why do celebrities, especially women, get torn apart online just for living their lives? Goo Hara's case showed just how toxic the pressure can be. The non-stop judgment, the expectations to be perfect, the hate comments, it all adds up. And sadly, she wasn't the only one. Other K-pop stars were going through the same pain, but nobody wanted to talk about it out loud. After her death, fans and activists started pushing harder for laws to fight cyberbullying. There were bigger conversations about how agencies treat idols, how the media feeds the pressure, and how badly mental health support is needed, not just for celebrities, but for everyone. So yeah, Goo Hara's story is heartbreaking, but it also opened eyes. It made people finally stop and say, something has to change. And little by little, it's starting to.